Right. Yeah, the FBI is watching. uh, okay, well, I got a poem, and that's sort of hot off the press, and then we'll sort of do what we do, which is sort of open it up a little bit. But the poem will lead us, hopefully, to absolute freedom. Okay, wouldn't that be nice? Well, here's the poem, and it started yesterday. I was sitting in this Zendo, uh, doing the morning sitting with Melissa, and that's where the poem starts. During the morning meditation yesterday, the silence was pierced by the rapid fire bang, bang, bang of an automatic weapon. The fireworks have already begun, I silently bitched. And then a faint smile rose to my lips as that complaint disappeared, just like every bubble disappears into the silence. During the morning meditation yesterday, the silence was pierced by a rapid fire bang, bang, bang of an automatic weapon. Fireworks have already begun, I silently bitched. And then a faint smile rose to my lips as that complaint disappeared, just like every bubble disappears into the silence. People in the United States celebrate Independence Day every 4th of July. But how many of us really feel free? How many of us really feel free? How many people of color feel free? How many poor people feel free? Or women? Or members of the Forbes 500, the richest people on the planet? How many members of the Forbes 500? Or Jeff Bezos? Does he feel free? My first Zen master, Shunryu Suzuki, confused me early on with bites of wisdom like this. You must have some rules to attain absolute freedom. You must have some rules to attain absolute freedom. After 50 years of meditation, even though I haven't attained it absolutely, I do wonder how some of the don't tread on me crowd who trampled other folks as they stormed Capitol Hill, I wonder, how can they call that freedom? Personally, I'd like to change the name of our 4th of July holiday to Absolute Freedom Day, or even better, Inter-Independence Day. And in honor of Suzuki Roshi, before we could break out all the fireworks on the National Mall, there'd be one rule we'd have to follow. We can only celebrate our freedom when absolutely everybody else is free. Personally, I'd like to change the name of our 4th of July holiday to Absolute Freedom Day, or even better, Inter-Independence Day. And in honor of Suzuki Roshi, before we could break out all the fireworks on the National Mall, before we could do all the bang, 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 there'd be one rule that we'd have to follow. We can only celebrate our freedom when absolutely everybody is free. Yeah, that's what was going through my mind yesterday, sitting. And this is called Inter-Independence Day. The poem will be put up on the Monday morning thing, but let's open it up a little bit. Well, for one thing, the bang, bang, bang was that startled Melissa and I during our meditation. It was an automatic weapon. It was an AR-15, my next door neighbor. But, you know, what my mind did with it and what in reality was happening were two different things. And boy, isn't that a lesson? You know, what your mind is doing during meditation and what's actually really true. So what actually happened was there's this dog, this huge dog that was so strong that he broke free. He was chained up. He broke free from the place he was chained up. And he'd been running around the neighborhood. Melissa ran into him the other morning. He'd been running around the neighborhood, trailing about like a 12, 14-foot chain behind him, plus probably the post he dragged out. I don't know. Was the post out there or just a chain? All right. I haven't seen him myself, but all the way up and down my little True Camino run on the road, you could see where he's dragging the chain. You could see the trail of the chain. And he went next door, and Morris next door, the taxidermist, was a great guy, and he does deer and all fish and all that kind of stuff in his part time, and he's got a lot of weapons. And the runaway slave dog, that I call him, he broke free, and so he's running with the chain, this heavy chain, and he's leaving his path wherever he goes. He went in our garage, he went across our lawn, but he's over at Morris, and Morris has about 20 dogs. I don't know how many he's got, but he's got a few big outside dogs, and so they started going at each other. They started a fight, and Morris came out with his AR and squeezed off some rounds real fast. At first, when I heard that, I said, "Did he kill the dog?" He said, "No, he just shot over their heads so they would disperse." And the dog ran away. So it's absolutely not what I was thinking of it at all. The fireworks have already begun, because there's a lot of people on this road with automatic weapons, and they just sometimes just shoot them off. I don't know. There's maybe next week we'll talk about the Big Bang, because that's, I think, what these people are tying into in one way or another. We can always talk about the Big Bang, maybe next week. But I was wrong. It was actually an act of compassion. And so then I started thinking, I've been meditating. This dog came up here, and, I see that he had broke free, which is an icon for me. We're all dogs chained up. I have been. I could be again. The idea is to break free. And I thought to myself, well, what would I do if this dog came up here? Would I call animal control? Well, I thought about it. No, I wouldn't call animal control, because they'd pick up the dog, and if nobody claimed him in a couple of weeks, they'd put him to death. No, I wouldn't call him. Would I try to get him back to where he came from? I don't know where he came from. I don't know. If I send him back to who he came from, they'd lock him up again. So, as I was walking today, looking at the trail. At one point, there's an X on the road where he must have come in this way and he went out that way. And I was standing looking at the X. And I said, I knew what I would do. I would feed the dog, and I'd take the chain off of him. I'd let him hang around as long as he wanted to. If he ran off, he ran off. But I couldn't do either of those other things. Couldn't call animal control. I don't think he's dangerous. I think he's just crazy. That's a metaphor. You go crazy when you're chained up your whole life by our own minds now. Blake called it the mind-forged manacles. Merton, in a journal essay, he saw his previous life as prison within prison within prison. Mind prisons, You cannot break out of a mind prison by thinking, you see. Merton went into the Trappist order, which is a contemplative order that, they have a real serious practice. And then he came to realize that what God was and what real life was not prison within prison within prison, but mercy within mercy within mercy. That's what contemplative practice can do for you. Merton, he died young. He was 53, almost 54, but he died there, but he wrote 60 books. There's more books on the way. They're printing up everything he ever wrote now, but he's a guy who got free. I remember the prior now is an old guy like me, but when Michael was a novice, Merton had already moved up to the Hermitage, which is about a 10-minute walk up the hill from the monastery. And Michael said, "Oh, I'd be out on a cloudy day, gloomy day, digging in the novice garden, digging up potatoes in the novice garden, and then I could hear from up on the hill, I could hear John Coltrane or the Beatles. You know, Merton got a kind of stereo set up from Joan Baez. She visited him one time, and when he was in the Hermitage, and she saw this cheesy little record player that he had, and she said, "Well, when I get back to California, I'm going to send you a present." Well, she sent him this incredible state-of-the-art hi-fi system stereo at the time, and Merton put the speakers in the trees. And so he'd play Coltrane or the Beatles or Bach or whatever. And you know, and one day Michael, he said, I was digging there, and he says, I heard the Beatles, and I just said, well, somebody got free. It's possible, you know. And so that's what it is when you meet a person like that. That's what icons are about, that it's possible. You don't have to be like a dog on a chain for your whole life. And you know, there's these intermediate stages where you break free, but you're still dragging the chain. These are wonderful metaphors for the spiritual life. And then there's absolute freedom. And so Suzuki said, and this, you know, I had this up, I had his picture up on the, up on my bulletin board, this picture, if you haven't seen the classic picture of Suzuki. I had this picture up on the bulletin board, and then I had just under it, we must have some rules to attain absolute freedom. I had that in my junior high class, but no rules under it. But that was the thing. Like, what did that mean? We talked about it a lot, and then we would decide what rules we needed to be free enough to learn, et cetera. So you must have some rules, at least even one rule. So when we talk about contemplation and meditation, there's 100 ways that you can sit and either, you know, go for broke and really make a connection, or just waste your time. You know, there's a lot of different kinds of meditations around, but most of the real ones that I've tried that I think are valid and helpful towards freedom, they have at least one rule. Most of the time, they don't have 12 rules. They don't have 7 this and 7 that. Usually, just one rule, because it's got to be simple. Because our life's confused. Who needs more confusion? Who needs 7 rules or 10 commandments? We don't need that. We need one rule. And I would contend that when we sit in a minute, when I stop talking, thank God, and we ring the bell, that we follow one rule. And you can get this rule in Psalm 34. Taste and see. That's the rule. Okay, so let's just open that up a little bit, and then you'll see what the rule is. Taste and see. There's 2 ways you can live a life, as far as I've experienced it, because I've experienced both of these ways. You can be judging every moment, and I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. And believe me, if you want to know about that kind of temperament, we wear judgment in pants or skirt. Doesn't matter what you're wearing. We judge things. We judge every moment. I was 32 before I even got a glimpse that there was any other way. I've been not quite half my life now, almost half my life, because I'm 71, but was at the monastery. I'd been meditating for 12 years, and I just had a little break in the cloud cover, and I felt something that I didn't even have a name for. And I went up to the 2nd floor to look in the dictionary for the name for the feeling. It was just feeling of well-being. It was a feeling of total relaxation. It was a warmth all over it. I never felt anything like that. And I'm looking through the dictionary, and then I realized that this is not how dictionaries work. You got to know the word. So I said, could this be joy? Because to me, joy was like a dishwashing liquid. That was it. And I had no idea what and I read it. I said, yeah, this is joy. And I had my cup, and I had the napkin under the cup from the refectory downstairs. And so I took my pen out and I wrote, I wanted to get the essence of it because I may never come again. So I just wrote it on the napkin. I could still see it. you know, because the Sharpie sort of bled into the napkin a little bit, but I just wrote the essence of it. I put pure joy. This moment minus my opinion of it. That's just what dropped out for a minute. All my judgment, every moment, judging every moment. It's too hot, it's too cold, and you name it. We meet every moment with opinions, with judgments, with a mental spin, you see. That's the beauty of Forrest Gump. He's a 0 on the Enneagram. He doesn't have any spin for every moment. That's why he's so amazingly successful. You know, it's a fictional character, but what would it be if you just dropped all your judgment for a moment? So are you tasting life or are you judging life? That's the question. You can write it down. It's a pretty good one. Are you tasting life or are you judging life? Now, the mind judges. It can't help itself. The ego's in the judging business, okay? It judges. And sometimes you do have to use your judgment. You don't want to walk out in front of a bus. You know, look both ways. There's some uses of the mind, but if you live from the mind, you're dog on a chain. Judgment, judgment, judgment. You can, you know, BS yourself, but essentially, there's just judging every moment. I lived that way for over 30 years. Okay. And most of the time after that, it took a while to really even figure that out. Or you can taste life. Now, the mind judges life, the heart, what the contemplative guys, all the mystics and contemplatives call the heart, is that faculty that tastes life. In Psalm 34, taste and see the goodness. Taste and see the goodness. Yeah, that's another way. Jesus was all heart. That's why we always see him with the exposed heart. You know, so what is the central thing that Jesus does when all the chips are down? Eat me. He said, taste me, you know, take the bread, take the wine. You know, he's saying, and that's not him. He just said, because he was the way, he was life. He was saying, you got to taste life, you know. Take a bite out of the ass of life every once in a while, instead of just trying to make sure you're always safe. You see, you know, it's good to be safe. It's good not to be threatened by criminals and whatnot. But yeah, so that's the question. Am I tasting or am I judging in this moment? Am I tasting or am I judging? So when we drop, that's the importance of dropping out of the mind, through the body, and onto what I call, it's just the image that works for me, onto the altar of the heart. And now you're moving from thinking about life to experiencing. Get that. That's the drop. From thinking to experiencing. The mind thinks, can't do anything else. Well, that's good. We need thought. We need to think hard about some things. But if you live there all the time, things get small. You're a dog on the chain. If you can drop down every once in a while, like a couple times a day, drop down out of thinking into the world of experiencing, a totally different world. It takes guts, because to leave the world you know for what you don't know, not easy. You guys getting ready to retire, that's what it looks like. Yeah, you got it all worked out. Even if you hate your job, you know your job. The devil you know. So to drop, so get the idea. I'm trying to give you, you know, over these weeks and months, different ways to look at what we do when we, you know, when we actually just drop into meditation. And it is a dropping. You drop this, you drop the thinking, and you go through the body. The breath is a real good vehicle. And so we'll work with the breath a little bit next week specifically. And so just keep breathing. When you're holding your breath, you're thinking. When you're just sipping little breath, that's enough to stay alive, but isn't enough to taste, isn't enough to thrive. Yeah. So keep that image in your mind. You're going from thinking to just experiencing. God or your true self or whatever, your deepest consciousness, it's not a thing. It's an experience. And it has to be tasted. You know, that's what they call the one taste. Once you get one taste of it, you go back. Yeah, so we're returning. to something we've had a taste of before. That's why this world, this life we have, you feel like, well, there's something wrong with me. I'm missing it. What is this? I just want to live to be 100? Is that the goal? In comfort? Maybe. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe people think that's, to have billions of dollars and be totally like smoozing all the time and maybe live to 100. I don't think so. Dogs on a chain. I don't care if you got a $500 billion yacht. There's another boat in it. Dog on a chain. Until you can experience the moments. Well, all right. Let's go into meditation. So change your position if you need to, and I'll stop talking here.